Okay, I'm live. Welcome back. You've been hanging out. Welcome back to Strongman Personal Finance. I make personalized live video responses to your investing questions for free. So you shoot me an email, you like my video, you subscribe to my channel, you hit the bell button for notifications, and I will make a live video for you. Don't you want that? I'm a CPA, man. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, we have another anonymous Ask Me Anything, and we'll call him Mr. G. I got an email titled Comparisons of the Crash of 1929 to the Inevitable. And he says, okay, I watched a documentary of the 1929 market crash, and I see a great number of behaviors today, though through different methods. The path leads me to believe the same. The funny thing in the film was made quite a few years ago before the cough. So it makes it more eerily similar. What are your thoughts? What do I think about this? Do I think we're about to enter into the second Great Depression? Well, I don't. Now, there's different perspectives of what caused the Great Depression. There was a lot of rampant market speculation. There was a lot of people buying stocks, they were heavily leveraged. They borrowed tons of money on these hot shot flying stocks. And there weren't a lot of government controls of the stock market. There weren't as many disclosure requirements. Like the Security and Exchange Commission, I don't even think it existed. They didn't create that until after the Great Depression, all right, or after the market crashed. So there was a lot of madness going on, prior to the 1929 stock market crash. But, a big theory is that it was actually the U.S. central bank that failed the economy. Because what happened was, as people started to get a lot of losses, the banks started having a lot of losses because they loaned out money to people. And people got nervous that the banks would collapse. And they started flooding the banks to get their cash out before the banks collapsed. But the thing is, with the fractional reserve banking system, the banks don't have your cash in a savings account, okay? They take your cash and you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, there's cash in my checking account. But it's really not there, okay? They actually loan that money out to other people to make money. So if everybody rushes the bank all at once trying to get their cash out, the bank doesn't have enough money. So what happens? Well, the bank has to shut its doors or completely goes out of business. And if one bank goes out of business, everybody else starts to panic because, oh, maybe my bank's going to go out of business. So everybody starts rushing the bank to get their money out. And because the banks don't have cash, they're kind of screwed. Well, that's where the Federal Reserve steps in. The Central Bank of the United States gives banks liquidity to meet the demands of the depositors taking their money out. So if there's a huge run on the banks, the Federal Reserve comes in and they print money or whatever, and they say, here you go, bank. Here's a temporary loan from us, so you can actually redeem your depositors' withdrawal requests. And then everybody calms down because everybody gets their money out. They all take a deep breath and they're like, okay, maybe the banking system isn't collapsing. And then they put their money back in eventually. And then the whole cycle of lending and the economy recovers eventually. Now, with the Great Depression, the central bank actually let a lot of banks fail. And the government actually instituted tariffs, which is the last thing you want to do when your economy's in shambles, okay? So the central bank let a lot of banks fail. Tariffs were increased, so that actually hurts the economy. That's the last thing you want to do because you don't want to freeze trade. You don't want to freeze commerce when the economy's doing bad. That's what happened. So all these banks were failing. Interest rates, they didn't cut them enough. And a lot of banks failed. And once the banks failed, the economy basically fell apart. Now, comparing that to today, the Central Bank of the United States now, the Federal Reserve, has gotten a lot better at managing banking panics. Look at 2008. They bailed out some of the banks to keep them from collapsing. Some people don't like it, some do, whatever, but they had to take action. So when all these financial institutions were on the verge of bankruptcy, the Federal Reserve had to step in to save them because once one business starts to go out of business, all the other ones are all tied together. They all owe money to each other. And then everything starts to collapse because everybody's going out of business. Well, the Federal Reserve stepped in, they printed money, they gave bailouts, and they protected these institutions from falling apart. And they kind of did the same thing by, monetizing the U.S. debt during the virus pandemic, cutting interest rates, pumping money into the economy because they don't want all these institutions to fail because that starts a ripple effect. So, do I think we're on the verge of a Great Depression? Do I think we're repeating the Great Depression? Is this 1929? No, I don't think so, because central bankers have gotten better at executing monetary policy. They actually learned a lot from the Great Depression, all right? Human history is progress. We get better and we learn more and more and more, and we apply that knowledge, hopefully. And the central bank is able to step in now and make more decisive and appropriate actions to stop the economy from failing. And if you look, our economy didn't completely collapse like it did in the Great Depression. Yeah, we had a spike in unemployment, but that was just kind of based on like government mandates. So when, the cure gets out, everybody has the vaccine or whatever, not the cure, the vaccine, everybody can go out and start doing what they normally doing. And then eventually I think the economy will recover. And it's because of the central bank bailing out everybody. So I don't think we're on the verge of a Great Depression, but the central bank, it's not perfect. Maybe there might be some inflation in the future, but they can control that too. The central bank has tools to control inflation. So we're not anywhere near a Great Depression. All right. This is not 1929. The bankers are so much more knowledgeable now, and you kind of have to have faith in them because there's nothing else you can really do. I mean, you just kind of have to hope they don't screw up the economy or, jack up interest rates too early or whatever, or, contract the money supply. Because if they do that, that would eventually lead to a Great Depression. But we're not at that. We're not at that point. We're doing better now, okay? We're getting better as humans. So that's my answer. No, I don't think we're on the verge of 1929. Now, the stock market is pretty stupid. Like right now, people are borrowing money at low rates, Robinhood, little margin account or whatever, and they're buying these stupid meme stocks. And, you kind of see these similarities where there's a lot of mania in the market. But in the Great Depression, people could borrow, or before the Great Depression, people could borrow way more money. Like they could do like what, 7, 8, 9 to $1 margin. So these people were taking out massive loans. Whereas now, in 2021, you're not allowed to borrow as that much money. The banks and the lenders are stricter on how much money they loan out to people on margin. So yeah, there's mania in the market, and I think it's kind of stupid right now what everybody's doing. But it's not as bad as 1929. There's a big difference now, okay? Because you do need some regulation from the government to make sure people don't just do absolutely stupid things like borrow $10 on $1 and then invest it in Tesla, right? That's not really allowed anymore, which is a good thing. So the market, maybe there's going to be a correction. Maybe there won't. I think we're in a bubble, or at least some sectors are in a bubble. But at the end of the day, it's not 1929. And if it is, if the economy, let's say the stock market crashes, well, go buy more freaking stocks because you're getting them on sale, okay? Those are my thoughts. So if you like this video, like it, subscribe, drop me a comment. I see one person watching. If you have any questions, let me know. If not, I'm going to sign off and go have some lunch. No questions? See this? See this book? Go buy it. Thank you. All right. Like the video. You guys have a wonderful day.